live. Here we are, live. Mike, did you get this hat in the mail that I'm wearing?
No.
Someone sent me this hat. Did not leave a note.
Wow.
They had my address.
Secret hat admirer.
Or a murderer.
That could be it too. I mean, I wouldn't, if I was to go out.
Are we on YouTube? We are.
Yeah, we are. If I was to go out
There it is.
right after getting a Wawa branded, I'm not a big Dead & Co fan, but love Wawa.
I would guess you would be, actually.
I have some friends that are, and I feel like I'm the type of person to get into that. I just haven't entered that phase yet. So maybe that'll be, maybe I'll turn 26 and get into them. That'll be like a 26 thing for me.
The shot at 26-year-olds everywhere.
Yeah.
CJ cooking them.
Nothing wrong with it. I enjoy music.
Being 26?
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
Okay.
That as well.
Okay. Has there been any press conference in the last hour that I've missed? Anything?
Joe Biden
Reports? Okay, great. So so Biden's commented on the deadline. That's good.
Yeah, he was very disappointed with the Pat Bev stuff.
I bet. All right, let me adjust my document. Okay, gone. Pat Bev, gone. Dan House, gone.
Look at that. Fuck 26-year-olds. Fucking losers. Old losers.
I got to cherish my
Dead & Company sounds like a 26-year-old and their friends.
Yeah.
Okay.
We do stream on Twitch, 5th Month Farm. We do. We are on Twitch.
Everyone always asks
Tom.
that, and then it's always the same like three fellows who I love very much in the Twitch chat.
In the Twitch chat.
Like once a week, people are like, "Are they on Twitch too?" And then I never see them talking in the Twitch chat.
Let's do this podcast.
Let's do it.
The Rights Ricky Sanchez podcast is proudly presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS and brought to you by Mortgage CS. Become a Mortgage CS Ricky VIP at mortgagecs.com/Ricky. Do we have Briggs Auction? We do, I guess. Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process at briggsauction.com, and Kinetic Skateboarding. Get 9.1% off your first order with promo code Dave Silver. On the show today, the Sixers trade deadline made everybody pretty mad. Patrick Beverly is gone. Jaden Springer is gone. Danuel House is gone. What's his face? Buddy Hield is here. Payne is here. And Joel Embiid says, lots of people got better. That's fun for competition. So we'll do that. Kinetic Skateboarding. Love Kinetic Skateboarding. They're good for competition, for your competition. I don't know what that means. Kinetic Skateboarding is a good place to get gear. When I say gear, I mean t-shirts, hoodies, jackets. Good jacket spot, especially for fall and spring jackets. Really like them a lot. And your place to get sneakers that you will not find anywhere else. Vans, Converse, Nike, New Balance, nowhere else, truly. Go to kineticskateboarding.com and use code DAVESILVER for 9.1% off your first order. The Ricky website, I have to give credit to our writers who really shine today. There is nobody else covering the Sixers like the Ricky. Dan Olinger, Andrew Underberger, Mike O'Connor, tons of trade deadline coverage at RightsRickySanchez.com. And now you can get it all sent to you, emailed directly to you. So you don't have to follow us on social or anything. You just get everything emailed to you. Go to RightsRickySanchez.com, tap subscribe, and every time we put out something new, you'll get an email. It's very good. I love it. Please do it because I asked you to. And a very sad note, we got an email that we read on the pod about 6 months ago about a processed pup named Molly. And we heard about Molly when she was diagnosed with bone cancer in August. Her dad is Mark, and Mark is a Ricky guy. And Molly fought bravely the bone cancer through a lot of treatment, got 6 more months, but ultimately the cancer was too much, and Molly passed away a couple weeks ago. We got a note from Mark's wife, Meg, from Mark, thanking us for mentioning Molly in August when it happened, but we want to send our love to Mark, to Meg, to their family, and of course to Molly, who is a beautiful, beautiful dog, and shared so much love with Mark. You could tell just by the way Mark wrote about Molly that she was a great dog. And every time I get one of these, we get these about the processed pups occasionally. It makes me really sad, but really happy to see how much people love their dogs and how much their dogs love them. So God bless you, Molly. And we send love to Mark and Meg and Molly's family. Without any further ado, Amos and the Chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who's just on Fanatics.com ordering his Under the Tax jersey. That is one Mike Levin.
We love it.
Yes.
Ducking the tax.
Love it.
I feel so tall because there's all these ceilings of the tax that I'm constantly ducking under because of my height.
Yep. Avoiding aprons and taxes and all right. So
the Matrix style, the Matrix reboot, but for the tax coming at you. The Ocean's 11, might be Ocean's 12 scene where they're getting through the lasers into the bank vault, except it's the tax.
I was imagining Daryl like this with the tax just flying at him, avoiding the tax. All right.
Thank God.
So in for the 76ers, Buddy Hield, Payne. Out for the Sixers, Marcus Morris, Furkan Korkmaz, Patrick Beverly, Danuel House, Jaden Springer. Sixers end up netting 2 fewer second-round picks moving forward. So the trades are as follows. It was Furk, it was Marcus Morris, 3 second-round picks for Buddy Hield. Furk then gets released.
Yep.
It was going to be a nice little reunion with Furk and TJ, but was not to be. Then Patrick Beverly gets traded to the strangest one I saw, but Patrick Beverly gets traded to the Bucks for Payne and a 2027 second round pick. Danuel House, I thought you had to trade something back, but I didn't think you could just trade it an exception. But Danuel House goes to the Pistons along with a 2024 second round pick. That is the Knicks second round pick. And the Sixers get a $4.3 million trade exception, but also save $18 or so million. And Jaden Springer goes to the Celtics for a second round pick. Why don't you give your gut on the day? And we can go through each thing, but give your gut on the day.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that as far as today goes, it's about who wasn't traded. Like the Hawks didn't trade any of their guys.
Right.
The Bulls didn't trade any of their guys.
Most of the guys we mentioned in Star Hunter did not get traded.
Nope, not even close.
Yeah. The biggest guys got traded 3 weeks ago and 4 weeks ago in OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam.
Yeah.
I think.
The Nets guys, with the exception of Spencer Dinwiddie, who's going to be on the buyout market, didn't get traded. The Blazers guys didn't get traded.
Yeah,
except
Bojan Bogdanovic and Buddy Hield, I think you could make the argument were the 2 biggest names that got traded today.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Gordon Hayward, you could say.
Right.
Utah didn't trade any of their guys except for Olynyk, who went for a first-round pick, which is not something that I would have been necessarily thrilled about even though the Sixers would have won several championships had they had Kelly Olynyk since 2017 or so.
In past years, yeah, for
Yes.
sure.
So it's a lot about like, look, on some level, you cannot make a trade with teams who do not want to trade their guys.
Unless you offer them more.
Unless you overpay.
Right.
And I don't like overpaying. And I don't think Daryl, for the most part, likes overpaying. And maybe he was going to overpay, and then Chicago, which is the most inexplicable one in all of these teams that didn't make any moves, decided to stay competitive. That enticing 9 seed, the 9 or 10 seed. Well, what if we just win every game in the playoffs?
Well,
then everyone's gonna love us again. What a dumb organization.
And by
to
the
not
way,
even trade Drummond is just insane.
By the way, the Sixers not in a position, not so flush with assets that they can overpay for something that they don't really want.
No,
you know?
man. And like, how long have we been saying? We've been saying this the whole Daryl tenure, which has sneakily now been a pretty long time, of like, we don't want him to overpay because you have to every little
Death of
like, cut you have to make of like, it's another second round pick out. It's another second round pick out. And now we're like, we have to trade Jaden Springer just to have some second round picks to trade in the future. They're out a lot. So the Sixers did not trade a first round pick, which means that come draft time or within like a week after the draft, they will have 5 first round picks to trade this offseason. So that on that level, you could say, man, a little bit of if you were just looking at that, you could say like, a little bit of a punt on this year. But the Buddy Hield trade, which is, you could argue the biggest player changing teams at the deadline, if you exclude the Raptors guys, which were traded earlier. That's a win now trade for Buddy on an expiring contract. Now they're going to have his bird rights. He's added to the list of guys that we can talk about of the Sixers that are still here that they could potentially re-sign this offseason, and they get a half a season and maybe a little bit of a playoff run to see how Buddy fits with this group. We can talk about that. We should talk about him more specifically, but like, it's just an interesting, it felt a little bit in the moment when I'm looking at it just through the staring at the Sixers lens, waiting to see what Daryl and Elton do. It felt a little bit like they're kind of riding the fence of making a move for right now for the playoffs, but also keeping their powder dry and making sure that they have all the assets they want and all the cap space that they could ever want for this magical offseason of trades or free agencies or stars demanding to come here to be the third guy between Maxey and Joel. So it felt a little bit like that, but then you kind of zoom out and you take a step back and you go like, most people didn't get traded.
Yeah.
And I'm also glad that they didn't just burn a first round pick for something that probably wouldn't have pushed them too far over the top. That's my like big picture thing. I think if the trades happened in a different order, I was at the dentist office, which is a really fun trade deadline tradition / prank that I pull on myself. My gums are doing pretty good. Thank you. But like if it happened in a different order, I felt good about the Buddy Hield trade. And then from there, the trades that they made got more and more inexplicable. And as you're waiting to be like, well, there's got to be something else. There's got to be something else. I'm waiting. I'm refreshing. I'm in the writer's room refreshing. And then there isn't. And then it's like 12. I'm in the West Coast. So 12:05, 12:10, 12:15, 12:30. And it's just nothing. And then it wasn't there. And so it felt disheartening and a little bit of a letdown. But I think if they happened a little bit more out of order, you look at it in totality and you go like, well, the top 9 of this team probably got better.
Yeah, I would
even
say so.
if it's not as much as we would have wanted.
Yeah. So I felt the same thing. I did a show today with Ike and Jack on WIP. So I was on the air as the trade deadline happened. And as the deals were coming, I just kept saying, oh, something's coming here. Like they are maneuvering for something. And then when it didn't happen, you were just it was very hard to reconcile how I felt about everything because that didn't happen. So it took me a while to think about it. I agree, and especially if there's a lot of rumors about Kyle Lowry, who's cooked, but if they end up adding him, I think for sure their rotation is better today than it was yesterday. Maybe like they're 27th in the league in number of threes they shoot, and Buddy Hield is going to improve that. They were desperate. They desperately needed a real 3-point shooter. But I do think too, and there's no way that this can't play into it, that the idea of overpaying for something gets a lot more difficult when there is a chance that Joel Embiid doesn't even play again this season. And they know that math better than we do, for sure. They know what that is better than we do. But if he was healthy and they felt like they were a piece away, that's potentially when you overspend. Though, the only thing that I think about that is that it's almost like, and maybe this isn't a realistic way to think. And going back, by the way, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place here. Going back, most of the guys we wanted were not traded. They were not traded. They weren't going to get Larry Markkanen. Wasn't going to happen. They weren't going to get Bogdan Bogdanovic. Wasn't going to happen. But all that said, if like there's a 25% chance of Embiid playing again, I almost think that you have to this year. I almost think that you have to treat it as it's 100% chance.
Well, I think it's way more than 25% that he's going to play.
I don't know. I have no idea. I mean,
I think that they don't acquire Buddy Hield unless they thought very, very confidently that Joel is coming back this season.
Oh, I don't think that's true. I do think there's probably a taste within the organization to not be a total fucking waste for the rest of the year.
I don't think that's Daryl at all. I think that if they thought he was out for the. What did you say?
I think it's not just Daryl; it's the owners too, and they're the ones that have to answer for the Sixers losing 17 of 20 or something. And I'm again, it's 3 second-round picks, it's like whatever. All that said, I was fine with today. We have different feelings on Springer. I think the thing on. Do you want to start with Hield? You want to just start with Buddy?
Let's start with Buddy.
Okay.
I felt it before the updates, and maybe it's whatever. I think for sure Joel's playing again this season. I feel like confident that he's just going to do it, and then he'll get some more surgery this offseason, and he'll do his thing, and it'll be like kept quiet and kept vague, and that's just like how Joel is. I feel he's going to play. I feel fine about it. Is he, damaging his knees to the point of like he's going to have arthritis for a long time after? Like, yeah, for sure. Probably. But I think he's going to play and he's going to give it a go, and he's going to look not so dissimilar from how he always looks in the playoffs when he's like
hurt.
Yeah.
So
but he's gotten better, and he's got a better coach around him, and he's got, at their peaks when they're all healthy. And another factor in this trade before we even get to Buddy is like, man, a lot of these guys still injured.
Yeah.
A lot of those guys, especially a lot of the defensive guys that are still on this team, are still very injured.
Yep.
But once they're healthy, if presuming health, and then I think Joel at his like even 70%, whatever version of himself that he's going to be in the playoffs, has gotten better enough that with those guys around him and Maxey having taken another step forward, plus Buddy Hield now, like they're going to have a shot to do some stuff in the playoffs, and I think that's what they're gearing up for. Otherwise, they would have punted it. Sorry.
The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. Now, we did not get your big game prediction last week, Mike. Now, DraftKings Sportsbook right now, the 49ers are a 2-point favorite. Mike, the official Vegas Mike pick, DraftKings Sportsbook, Super Bowl, I don't know, 59. I don't know what Super Bowl number it is. Yeah,
Super Bowl a lot.
Yeah. So what is your pick? And then I'll give you a couple of props. They have a lot of props in the DraftKings Sportsbook app, but Niners 2-point favorite.
For the big game, I will be taking Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes to win the game. Find a way.
You and me both.
Find a way to do it.
I think they will cover. I very simply, better quarterback, better coach, better defense. So
yeah, simple as that.
Simple as sometimes it is. Why don't we go color of first Gatorade poured on winning head coach? Purple is plus 250.
Okay.
Red is plus 275. Yellow, green plus 300. Orange plus 300. Blue plus 350.
None of those are great odds. I would like them to be a little bit better.
Clear is plus 1,000, and no Gatorade bath is plus 1,600.
Give me clear.
Wow.
Give it to me.
Wow. Okay. And then final one. Combined TD scorer jersey numbers. So the combined jersey number of all the TD scorers over 121.5 is minus 150. Under 121.5 is plus 125.
This requires so much math in such a
They'll never figure out what the correct answer is, so you'll have to cash.
Not a chance. Under.
DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Of course, you can bet the big game on it. Right now, new customers bet $5 and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Use code RTRS. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app with code RTRS. New customers can bet just $5 on the NBA and get $200 instantly in bonus bets. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code RTRS. Crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Got to be 21. See show notes for details. So, Buddy Hield.
Yeah, let's do it.
Dan Olinger did a great write-up, a film school on Buddy Hield and his pluses, minuses, how he'll fit in with the team at writesrickysanchez.com. Go there, subscribe, get all of Dano's articles. I thought it was really informative. I think you cannot understate how good a three-point shooter he is, how willing a three-point shooter he is, and how consistently good a three-point shooter he is. Probably the best one they've ever had. I mean, taller than Redick. I think quicker release than Redick. You know, the best three-point shooter that they've had.
Younger than Redick.
Yeah, with also, let's stay away from that. They need, there are negatives to him, but his offensive skill set will be a welcome addition to the Sixers. And they've needed a player like him. He's been rumored to go to the Sixers for years now. So you can talk about him getting hunted in the playoffs and yada, yada, yada. But I think for now, it will be a welcome addition to the lineup.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, his off-ball shooting gravity is nearly unmatched in this league.
Caitlin Cooper had a good tweet about that as well.
Caitlin Cooper writes for about the Indiana Pacers. Been on this podcast a few times. She's great.
Yeah.
I would just look her stuff up to find out more stuff about Buddy. He's going to set so many screens for Maxey. Sometimes he'll flare off of those and not set the screen, and then they're going to scramble, and then Maxey's speed is going to make it so hard to cover that. That's going to be a really nice offensive sets to run without Joel, and then he's going to do the same dribble handoff stuff that Joel did with JJ and then Seth Curry. And it's going to be good. I mean, he's an incredible offensive player. He has improved as a ball handler from when he was younger. He's not that young right now. He's 31. He came into the league when he was 24.
I was going to say he was 25 when he came out of school.
Yeah, he was old out of Oklahoma. He's really has improved as a ball handler and will be able to. His gravity is so vast that when they come at him, he's good at either doing a little sidestep situation or attacking off of it. He's a solid passer. He's really on the offensive end. He's just going to be so helpful. And you said the Sixers are not getting that many threes up, but when Embiid's not there, it's even less. Over the last 10 games, I think Rich Hoffman put this in an article or in his newsletter. It was they're over the last 10 games, they have the fewest threes in the league by a sizable margin, a very large margin. They are not getting enough threes up with Joel Embiid off the court because they either don't get double teams or it's just Maxey getting double teams and he's their best 3-point shooter, especially with Melton out, Covington out. It's just a lot of guys that want to dance a little bit or get to the mid-range or attack or aren't shooters. So this is going to be really, really helpful for that before Embiid gets back, and also especially once Embiid is back. It's just going to be a really nice. It's going to be good for everybody. Buddy Hield's going to make everybody's life a lot easier on offense. So much. Defense,
Not so good.
he doesn't really do it. And that will give you pause about playing him and Maxey at the same time. Maxey is not a negative defender for that position anymore, but that position is still a negative generally. Like point guards around the league, for the most part, are very exploitable, very huntable in the playoffs. And if you put the two of them together, Buddy is a better on-ball defender than he is off, and he has a similar sort of vibe from Harden on defense, is that like he'll just fall asleep and start looking and get beat on back cuts and stuff. And so I'm already going to be annoyed watching him like think about doubling, and all of a sudden his guy is cutting behind him to the basket and all that stuff. So that's going to happen. But the Sixers have been really bad on both ends for a while, and I see them getting better defensively when the defensive guys get healthy. I'm obviously talking about like Melton and Batum and Covington as far as the like these guys got to get healthy guys.
I'm not optimistic about Covington's health.
No, I've heard
the
similar.
way they've talked about it.
I've heard similar, yeah. But if he does come back, then there will be playing time for him to do what he does. And an off-ball defense is what they're going to need a lot of. But Melton and Batum should be fine.
Do you think, let's say everybody healthy, just curious, everybody healthy, do you think Buddy starts
No.
over Melton? No.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think that they like the starting lineup. I think that Melton, as a volume shooter in this starting lineup, has been good. And it's alarming that he's been out for this long. It's a back injury he's dealt with for a while. But it seems like they are not ringing any alarm bells that they think this is a long-term thing that could keep him out for longer. Hopefully he'll be back pretty soon. Maybe right after the All-Star break, if not sooner. So yeah, I would love Buddy coming off the bench, being a ton of offense. And we'll have to wait to see how him and Embiid look together, but I got to imagine it's going to be
Awesome.
be good.
Well, Embiid with any shooter so far in his career has been awesome. If you can do the dribble handoff thing, he will.
And Buddy has not gotten, he's not obviously nobody thinks this, but he's not a like face up scorer like DeMar DeRozan from the mid range. He's not doing that. He is flying around 3-point lines, running around screens, ghosting screens, popping out, excellent off the catch. And he really has limited his bad 2-point shots, which he has sometimes taken earlier in his career. Think about like the 2-point shots that you're like, why is Tyler Hero doing this? That kind of thing. But he's over the last 4 years has improved his 2-point percentage year to year. And he is hands down having his best year from 2 because of his shot diet. While still shooting last year, 43% from 3, this year, 38% from 3. He doesn't really get to the line, but he's a good foul shooter. It's really going to be exciting to watch him just hoist at his volume, because you can't, when they're all healthy, you can't double off him. And then that means there's more space for Maxey and Embiid to do his thing. It's going to be really, and then like Batum being the connector, it's really just going to make a lot of sense, like all together when it's healthy. But it's hard to sort of see it because obviously Embiid's so unhealthy right now, and all those other guys have been out for what feels like a long time, and they've just been struggling and losing games, and it's a rough time. I wanted more reinforcements, and they traded some of the guys that have been healthy, which is tricky. But a lot of what I'm going to say is like, get those guys back, even not Embiid, and things start to make a little bit more sense, and Buddy should help that.
Now we need to take some time and talk about something that is important and is not the guy coming in, but one of the guys going out. Now, Marcus Morris, we disagreed about. He was here for a short time. It was fun to have Marcus Morris on the team. But more importantly, one, Furkan Korkmaz, the second longest tenured Sixer to Joel Embiid, has been here for at least 100 years. The only two players that have been here longer than Tobias Harris's decade-long contract, Joel Embiid and Furkan Korkmaz. 3 trade requests from Furkan Korkmaz. Somehow had a trade request and then signed a new contract and then had another trade request afterwards. I don't remember the math of it, but
that's the math.
Just a a glorious Sixer. I will never, ever forget the Portland game winner.
Yep.
I will never stop believing that he is good. I will never stop believing in the shot. He, as MOC, I think it was MOC that wrote, was the best pump faker in Sixers history. I will miss Furk. Furk had a good run. I'm actually kind of sad that the Pacers cut him. I hope he pops on somewhere else. I will continue to believe in Furk forever, even though he wanted to get traded so badly.
Yeah, it's a bummer. I don't think that Indiana necessarily planned on cutting him, I guess is my read. And then they got Doug McDermott, and it made a lot more sense. Yeah, I mean, Korkmaz just very rarely was as good in the NBA as he was overseas playing for Turkey. Fun player to root for, fun guy to have around. He's really been here quite a long time. 2016 drafted him with Timothé Luwawu-Cabarrot, a Colangelo draft.
To satiate us. Those were the two guys we wanted.
It's been a long time, man. And he has made so many trade requests, and he finally gets it. And so hopefully latches on somewhere, but if not, he goes back to Europe for a few years. He's still like young enough to go to Europe for a couple years and come back and be like, maybe he has like a weird beard or like a strange haircut or something, and comes back and has a better, last run of his prime or something. But yeah, I mean, it's wild, dude. He's been around for most of this podcast.
Yeah.
Korkmaz has.
Speaking of this podcast, a moment of Ricky history that we don't often talk about, but we were both supposed to go to the Sixers facility and interview Furk, and you had a bad tummy that day.
I was sick.
You were sick, and I had to go by myself and interview Furk, and he was so suspicious of me the entire time. He did tell a good TJ McConnell story on the podcast. I don't remember it, but we asked TJ, who confirmed it. But I love Furk, and I hope.
And Embiid liked him, and he's just been around a long time, and so yeah, he's had a tough go, and he's always been the ball handling and the like athleticism and the little like funkiness to his game were always very nice, but it was never quite enough of the shooting that you really just needed him to be a very, very good shooter. And he just kind of wasn't good enough for a really long time.
But he looked like he still, when I watch him, I still buy it.
I wish, man. Hey, there's nothing I can respect more than believing long after the time has ended.
Right.
So I can relate to that, but they'll miss him. At least as a personality and stuff. And so now, we can go to the next guy. I think Pat Bev is probably the next most painful. I mean, people were ready for Korkmaz to go, and Korkmaz, obviously, many trade requests down, was ready for him to go. But Marcus Morris, I didn't want him on the team. I don't think he can defend, and I think that the stuff he does offensively would not have worked in the playoffs. Buddy Hield's just a way better and faster shooter, and will be more helpful to this team, obviously. The Pat Bev trade was really strange.
Very strange. Now, it did replenish a second-round pick, and it does sort of indicate to you that they're like, 'cause I think campaign kind of stinks.
Yeah, he had like a resurgence a few years ago, and was special in some playoff runs, and then has sort of gone away. Very clearly, they believe and are sending out all the signals that they think Kyle Lowry is coming here in a buyout situation. And if that happens, then campaign just is on the bench
as another guard.
Another guard in case somebody gets injured, whatever.
Gives us one. We would have three point guardy type players instead of two.
Yeah. So we can talk about the buyout market in a second, but losing Pat Bev was just pretty bizarre to me. I would have rather just not made this trade. And if Lowry comes and Pat Bev doesn't want to sit behind him, if they think he's a better fit, then you just cut him and you get Kyle Lowry, and you just go like, oh, it didn't end up working out. We'll let Pat Bev go somewhere else where he can be in the rotation. But to make this trade now, when Pat has been one of the very few healthy players on this team, when they don't have I think he's been probably worse defensively than we've expected,
but better offensively.
But way better offensively.
Yeah.
way better offensively. And it's not surprising that Doc wanted Pat Bev after the Sixers acquired or signed Bev to the minimum this offseason. Doc said on television or some podcast that things would have been all different
Or if
Doc had Pat Bev when he was here, which is
fuck that guy, by the way.
Classic
Doc
Doc
Rivers.
situation. So now he gets to have his guys, and he is having a fun time in Milwaukee, not playing any of the young players, and their fan base is losing their mind in ways that we find familiar. But I don't like this trade. I understand the idea of replenishing a second round pick, but it feels a little bit like one of these kind of self-inflicted wounds that in a season when you are trying to go for it, even while you're waiting for Embiid to get back to something close to full health, it feels like something that you're like, why take this risk? Why take this risk that Kyle Lowry is definitely going to come here in a buyout, and that you don't want to play him together, and that he's going to be so miserable playing behind him, and that Lowry is like so clearly better, and like all this stuff. It just feels like really early to have to do this for like, well, we got our second round pick at least in it. And you're like, but you've been trading second round picks for bullshit for years.
Getting a second round pick for Pat Bev is kind of crazy. I think. I mean, I would have never guessed that they would have gotten a pick for Patrick Beverly, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's a fair way to look at it.
Yeah,
That's probably a fair way to look at it. They signed a guy this offseason to a minimum contract, and they got a second round pick for it.
Like they just got the same thing for Jaden Springer that they got for Patrick Beverly.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But it's been, I think the reason, you just want Daryl to pull like a rabbit out of his hat.
Yeah, there's been no rabbits.
And like, I guess you could say that the Harden deal was the first one, the Ben Simmons Harden deal. And then maybe you could say that the collection of expiring contracts that they got for the Clippers Harden deal and those firsts to replenish the stock for whatever trade they will eventually make was okay. But it's just like, man, you just want him to be the top 5 GM in the league that the like industry, except for his like very obvious haters, and Daryl has plenty of haters, believes him to be. And whether it's like other GMs are scared of negotiating with him on that level or just don't like to, or whatever it is, it's just like, man, you want to do a little bit more heisting. And I feel like these kinds of things that haven't quite found heist level happiness for me.
It does feel like there's less heisting in general in the NBA, and front offices have gotten a little
for sure
smarter.
For sure they've gotten smarter, yeah.
The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast brought to you by Mortgage CS. I love Mortgage CS, man. If you're buying a house, if you need to refinance, something like that, man, Mortgage CS is where you go. Go to mortgagecs.com/Ricky. mortgagecs.com/Ricky. CS stands for concierge service. That means you're getting treated right. You're at the hotel. What does the concierge do? Concierge does whatever you need. Need restaurant reservations? Concierge does it. Now, that's not what Mortgage CS is going to do, but they're going to take care of you. They're an independent mortgage broker right here in the area. Independent, so important. So important. See, most mortgage brokers, not most mortgage, you Google a mortgage, right? See these big companies. A lot of those mortgage brokers, which are not the ones that give you the money, they go find the money for you. They have deals with certain banks that you don't know about. And when they're going to find you a mortgage, they may direct you toward a bank that may benefit them a little bit more than it benefits you. Mortgage CS only cares about you. That's it, 100%. They offer refinancing options, including rate and term refinances. They also, this spring, it's going to be a very, very, very hot real estate market. So you having a great mortgage broker in your corner is very, very, very important. Also, it's not just PA. They're licensed in California, Colorado, DC, Delaware, Florida, Massachusetts, Maryland, New Jersey, South Carolina, Virginia, Washington. you're in any of those places, they can take care of you. And they're going to be they're going to be there for you whenever, wherever you need them. Here is Ben, the CEO's cell phone number. Call or text him anytime, 267-391-7425. That is 267-391-7425. When I say anytime, I mean anytime. Because that's what you're going to need when you're looking to buy a house. You may need a pre-qualification letter, pre-qualification letter, like Saturday night. You might need it Sunday morning. You might have a question about where rates are in the middle of the week. You reach out to Mortgage CS. They will get right back to you. 267-391-7425 or go to mortgagecs.com/Ricky to schedule a phone or Zoom consultation. If you do not believe me, go to Google, look at the reviews, hundreds of 5-star reviews. Mortgage CS, we love them. This advertisement is not a commitment to lend or extend credit. Mortgage CS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com/Ricky for more information. So
I think they're just the last thing. I think they're gonna miss Pat Bev, but at least campaign, if he does have to play, or the Lowry thing takes longer to develop, like Cam being a more willing 3-point shooter is at least some benefit to this. I think Pat Bev is a better player all around. I think he's probably a better fit for this team and the locker room type stuff that he brings. Like everybody loved Pat, Maxey loved Pat, and Embiid seemed to love Pat. It was fun to have him around, especially because he was playing as well as he was offensively and had a bunch of, pulled a bunch of floaters out of his ass and did start shooting better from 3, even though it was still only 32% on the year. Like his unwillingness at times to shoot off the catch was problematic, and Cam is definitely more willing to do that than Beverly was. So at least you can look like that. I didn't like the trade. I wish they didn't do it. I wish they didn't have to replenish picks that they have traded in past things that didn't work. George Hill, Jalen McDaniels, fucking everybody. I could keep. There hasn't been a acquisition that you go like, aside from a couple signing some free agent guys, minimum guys, whatever. But like, you really wish like that trade, huge. You wish you could do that, and like, I'm glad we don't have like the 40th pick in the draft because we got this guy and that was great. But like really the stuff that's worked, like the Melton trade worked, but that was a 1st round pick. And it's just, you wish you had a little bit more. And so, yeah.
So then the Sixers trade Danuel House and the Knicks 2024 2nd round pick to the Pistons, who send
not a great second. The Knicks be in the mid-50s, early mid-50s.
And officially the Pistons sent a one of those fake picks, super protected 2nd round pick, so they won't get it. Sixers get a $4.5 million trade exception, also potentially save up to $18 million this year.
And we see that money. That's us. We get it.
Now, as someone will tell you, or as people would tell you, there are strategic advantages to staying under the tax. It's not just saving money.
Yeah. This was the duck the tax move.
Yes.
This was it.
And the strategic thing, I'm not good at this, but basically the repeater tax is punitive, and if you don't go over the tax, then it starts over again, and you're not subject to the repeater tax. The repeater tax costs you money, but also can restrict your ability to sign players, can hard cap you, so on and so forth.
So this basically allows them to go all in and go over the tax multiple years in a row for the rest of Joel's prime, basically.
Yeah. Now, I loved watching Danuel House. I'm going to be honest with you. He's untrustable. Like, I don't care that this is how they duck the tax, to be honest with you. It doesn't matter to me. It would if they, I know we hate when they sell 2nd round picks, but if they sold a 2nd round pick for like $18 million, I'd be like, well, I don't know. It seems like a good price.
Sure. Yeah, trading House, especially, again, House was starting.
Yes.
On this very injured team multiple times over the last few weeks. And so they have needed him. He has done variations of good. He hasn't been a good 3-point shooter, which is a bummer because he is ostensibly a 3-and-D guy. Mm-hmm. He's been weirdly better in transition, finishing chaotically.
Yep.
And he does seem to be well liked in the locker room.
He seems like a funny guy.
And fun to watch, goofy to watch, all that stuff. Would not have felt good about him in a playoff rotation by any means. But it's just like, if you had gotten the fact that you had to attach a pick off of it, even though it's not a good pick, is still a bummer. It's still a bummer. These are the kinds of things. And it's like Daryl signed Dan last year to mini mid-level, 2 years, like 8 point something million. And it just it didn't work out. And it's just like, you take these swings. It's worked out with Oubre for the most part. It worked out with Pat Bev. They're not all going to work out, but you wish that more of them did. And then you don't have to sign somebody and then attach a pick to get off of him so you can save money.
To be clear, this signing and this mini mid-level was at the request of James Harden.
Worth mentioning. We got sanctioned for this. Now all of the Harden remnants are, aside from Daryl, I guess, are out of the organization.
Remember that James Harden took the pay cut so they would give the money to his friends that he owed for various things.
Yeah, the sex in the bubble for Dan House, and then just being friends and getting him burgers for PJ Tucker.
Well, I think the PJ Tucker one is PJ Tucker had said, I believe in an interview, that James Harden promised when he got traded to Brooklyn that PJ Tucker would also get traded to Brooklyn, and it didn't happen, so he owed him. But that's just what I heard. That's what I read sometimes. So
PJ Tucker also not traded at the deadline and not bought out.
Is he? Will he be bought out? Oh.
No, they said no.
Oh yeah, because he's still got a year left anyway.
Yeah.
So then there's the final trade.
Here we go.
This is the one that Jaden Springer gets traded to the Celtics for a second round.
The Celtics.
Pick. Now you
for like a second round pick around like 40 to 42 right now.
What's the pick? Is it there? What's the pick? Do you remember?
I thought it was.
It can't be their pick.
I don't remember whose it was, but it's in the. It's right now. I think it's 42.
So,
CJ, look it up. Whose it was? I'm forgetting.
It's funny.
And
I don't care about trading Jaden Springer, but trading him to the Celtics makes me nervous.
Thank you. Yes. And this is obviously not a thing that Daryl's going to care about. He's a very confident man.
He'll laugh at you, laugh in your fucking face.
He does not think that someone's going to get one over on him.
No.
And certainly not the Celtics. I liked Jaden Springer very much. Obviously, people listening to this podcast know that. And I like ferocious defenders that give a shit. And over the last few games, you saw Jaden Springer seemingly turn a corner on kind of all levels. He's still obviously not anywhere near the offensive player that he needs to be like a consistent NBA rotation player in a good team. Obviously. But like, there's not that many guys that can give like Jordan Clarkson, Luka Doncic, Steph Curry as much trouble as Jaden gave them over the last couple weeks. He looked really awesome. It was really cool to watch. He's fun to watch. The guys on the team loved him. It was cool to see him start to figure it out, and not always, but like start to make better decisions on the offensive end. Because unlike Matisse could never do anything on the offensive end. Jaden could at lower levels, and just the stuff that he did at those lower levels did not work at this level. So he had to like reorient his brain to figure that stuff out. But like, he still has passing acumen the way that Matisse doesn't. He still has some dribbling acumen the way that Matisse doesn't in those skills. He has touch, like he's a good free throw shooter, and you can imagine that building over time to be better on the catch and shoot, all that stuff. Like, I didn't think it was going to happen here, and I would have been fine had they traded him. But the fact that they traded him now on an injured team after they traded Pat Bev, because when they traded Pat Bev, I was like, oh, they think that Springer has turned a corner. They think that this is like something that is real, and they're going to give him those minutes, and Lowry's going to come, and that's going to be a little combo there. And then to trade him also to the Celtics only for a middling second was really, really disappointing for me. And it throws the whole process into question, because like, they drafted him at 28, and that wasn't a great draft. You can go back and look who was available. There wasn't a ton of guys. Herb Jones is probably the pick that they should have made at that point. But like, if you're going to draft a guy when Doc Rivers is your coach, who is a young, raw player, he's the youngest guy in that draft, and then like not give him that much opportunity and then trade him at certainly not the height of his value, it would have been made more sense to just like, I don't know. Maybe you take a swing, and that's what the maxi pick was. So it was like taking a swing. But like CJ's telling us it's a Chicago pick that they got for Springer. But like it just you want the coaching staff and the front office to be in sync, and the good teams have that happen. And nobody bats 1,000. Like obviously you take swings in the draft and they don't pan out and you keep it moving. But like, I just never liked it. Obviously, Doc was the head coach here, and that he was never going to get playing time on a Doc Rivers team. But he's a talented kid, and then a really good, frustratingly good organization like Boston goes, we want that guy. We will pay the 41st pick in the draft to get him. Should give a worse organization in the Sixers pause. If they want him, you should go, then you can't have him. If like the fucking Rockets or the fucking Cavs, any other team that's not them wanted Jaden Springer, then you could go like, okay. But the fact that it's Boston should give you pause to make that trade. And I don't think that he's going to be a huge weapon in the playoffs for Boston. Maybe they throw him on somebody, whether it's Maxey or some other team, for a little bit and let him run around and they have enough offensive firepower to do other stuff. Maybe it's Drew insurance in case they need some defense, whatever the fuck. I obviously don't like the trade. I would have been fine had they moved him like to Indiana in the Buddy trade, but that being the last move of the deadline, you duck the tax, fine. You trade Pat because you can get a pick for him and you think Lowry's going to come, fine. But they've just done such a mediocre job managing assets and winning at the margins and drafting well and having like cost controlled guys succeeding here, that this trade of my guy to the fucking Celtics really, really was a punch in the nuts. And I don't like it. And I'm terrified of what it could mean if he does figure it out in Boston. You'll never hear the end of it from me. You know that. Daryl has to know that if it works out for him. And maybe it won't. Like, there's a chance that he just like plays out the string and then just goes and doesn't, get extended in Boston after next year. But it'd be really bad if he did. It'd feel really, really shitty if he figured it out in Boston. That's another win number like 19 in a row of the Celtics franchise against the Sixers. And we can name all of them. Obviously, some of them are playoff wins. Some of them are fucking the pick swap trade. Some of them are Al Horford signing here. All that shit. It could be really, really bad. And I just do not think that this was a trade they needed to do right now on a team that is starved for defense now because all those guys are hurt. Starved for guys that are trying hard and like can steal them extra possessions and still having the potential for growth and getting better. So I'm upset and annoyed, and I do not like this trade in any way.
I don't care about the trade. I respect everything you said, and the thing I do care about is the Celtics part of it. That was the only thing that gave me pause. I was like, well,
it absolutely should. And again, I'm scared money. I know that.
Yes.
I admit that.
Now, the thing about Springer is next year is the last year of his deal. They picked up that option. He still can't shoot, so still can't play in the playoffs. So I guess if you're them, you're like, well, what are the odds? And not that Nick Nurse doesn't like him, but I've never seen Nick Nurse I've never seen a coach call out a specific lack of a specific skill as many times as he's done it with Jaden Springer. They'll say, hey, he played really good defense, and
they're setting him up. They're like, talk nicely about your player who is visibly doing nice things, and he doesn't really want to do it.
They'll go, hey, he's playing good defense. He goes, yeah, it's really all about whether he can make shots or not. Like he says it every time. Yeah. So I'm not particularly confident that he would be good quick enough to make it worth it.
I agree.
I don't care one way or the other, but I do. The Celtics thing makes me nervous. Sorry, Joe.
But I agree with that.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it should have happened here. And I think he probably should have gone to another team. But like, the Celtics thing scares the shit out of me. If a team as good as the Celtics with championship aspirations thinks that this guy can help them, then that should give you fucking pause. And I appreciate that Darrell Elton are confident in their evaluations of their players, but like, I wouldn't have done it. And it frustrates me on a process level, because not like the process, but on a process level where you're trying to build an organization where like you draft players, you develop them, or you draft players with the intent to play them at the right level, whatever. Like, they just shouldn't have made this pick then, because you knew that Doc Rivers was the coach. You knew that Jaden was going to take time to learn NBA basketball as like a combo guard with not a quick trigger. And I just wish that there was the foresight of that. And that's a similar thing on like a way, way lower scale of like the Okafor pick, which is just like, hey, this guy fell to us. And like, yeah, we got some other stuff here. And yeah, maybe it's not going to be the right perfect fit for him. But like, we believe in our ability to like get future value for him and something. And I just think like, dude, draft guys that you think that your coach is going to play, or trade the pick for something in the future and use not a first round pick on like a project that you can then go like Ricky Council, who we did not use a pick on. He's here. He is developing a jump shot in the G League, seemingly starting to get better. And you don't have to go like, oh, we used a first round pick on this guy, and now we're trading him when he hasn't really succeeded here and a rival wants him, and we don't think he's right. It's just bums me out. It really bums me out.
The Rights Ricky Sanchez podcast brought to you by Briggs Auction. Briggs Auction's in Delco, 4-generation, family-owned and operated auction house. A lot of fun. One of my most fun internet things I do every week is go to briggsauction.com. I don't use the app, actually. Now, you can get the app on a Google Play and the App Store. I like going to I'm a web guy. I go to the Briggs Auction site, see what auction they have that week. Maybe sometimes it's 2. Start going through the items. Sick shit, collectibles, clothes, furniture you're not going to find anywhere else. And here I bring you, for this week's Star Trek auction, the CJ Briggs Auction item of the week.
Oh, cool.
Oh, CJ's not even talking. Okay.
Yeah, I can talk about it.
Yeah.
Gene Roddenberry, hell yeah. I want his signature.
So
everyone else,
he doesn't even know what he's talking about. So,
look at these guys. They
Michelle
all wrote their
Nichols?
names. They wrote their names on.
So
Michelle.
this is a framed collection of autographs from the original Star Trek series. So George Takei is there. William Shatner is there. Leonard Nimoy is there. I think the entire staff from the original TV series. Like right now, it's at $400. It's a really sick item.
Looking good.
Yeah, this is all Star Trek in this one. Then next week, there's a Discovery auction. Discovery auctions are my favorite ones because it's got the most random shit in it. There's the estate auctions, which are cool too. Love Briggs Auction. Find a gift for somebody that you're not going to find anywhere else. Go to briggsauction.com, download the app, pick up easy by appointment during the week, or Saturdays is open pickup. And if you perhaps have a Star Trek collection you'd like to auction off or something like that, you feel like you have valuable items that would be great in an auction, send an email to info@briggsauction.com. Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process. Now, we did mention earlier the Joel Embiid tweet. Every once in a while he tweets and I just think to myself, I wish he'd sit this one out.
Yeah.
This was one of those. Tweets out, especially like he just opens himself up for shit. I don't know.
He likes it.
Tweets out, but then he'll say, all you have to do to get clicks is talk about Joel Embiid and blah, 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 blah. And then
he likes
just,
to do that though.
Yeah.
I just like the way that man wore a suit.
Yeah.
I thought it was a nice suit.
Yeah. He tweets out, lots of people got better. 3 exclamation points. That's fun for competition.
Ellipsis.
It sounds like
ellipsis and at the end is pretty good.
Yeah. And the correct number of dots in the ellipsis, which is good because an ellipsis has 3 periods and many times people use more. I just kind of wish he's added out. But that was my opinion on the tweet.
Yeah, I mean, I really do think that if you look at health, now the Sixers have 3 roster spots open right now. So
Yeah.
maybe it's probably 2 buyout guys, and maybe they decide to promote one of the 2-way guys. Who knows? But like Kyle Lowry is probably going to be here. Maybe they think a center gets bought out that they like more than Bamba, maybe, and they can put him over Bamba in the rotation. You know, I'm not that interested in Seth Curry. I would be interested in DeLon Wright. I've talked about him a lot on this podcast. I think having a guy that can defend and you know, penetrate a little bit would be really nice.
Oh, he did say lots of people got better. That's so weird. I don't know. Somebody mentioned in the chat.
He's just saying stuff.
Yeah. Okay. All right. What does that even mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
And maybe Spencer Dinwiddie. I don't think he's going to come here, but that's an interesting buyout stuff, and we'll see who else becomes available and stuff. But I think if you look at the Sixers, keep the starting lineup as is. You add Buddy Hield, and Kyle Lowry, and that's a really interesting top 10 guys. Obviously, health has to be asterisked to hell, but Maxey Melton, Batum, Harris, Embiid, as many graphics have shown you, have been the best starting lineup in basketball. Obviously, in the playoffs, different story. You're going to need a little more help than that. But then a bench of Lowry, Hield, Oubre, Covington, B-Ball, providing health, that's a good bench. That's probably the best bench that a Sixers team has had in the playoffs. And we will wait to see. Can't just assume Kyle Lowry's going to come here because it always feels like the buyout breaks our heart.
Yeah.
But
he is a Daryl guy. Was a Daryl
guy.
Sam
He's a Nick
guy.
Nurse guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, we don't. I as frustrating as today was, and the Springer stuff I think is really bad, and the Beverly stuff is annoying because I did think he had something a little special here, and I think it's a little bit of a self-inflicted wound.
Never got him on the podcast, which kind of
Never got him on the podcast.
Yeah,
that hurts.
Pat-Bev,
the Bell to Ass tour
welcome.
ends in Philadelphia. It's gone. Now he gets to play for Doc Rivers. Will be fun. Maybe if like Pat-Bev screams at Doc on the sideline, that would be cool. Something to root for. But it's just like, and AU had a good article on the site about like a nihilistic take on this trade deadline anyway, about how
great job by AU. Great job by all the writers today, by the way.
Yeah, about how he wanted more.
Yeah.
But usually you end up with, I'm just going to read him. You end up dealing for George Hill or Jalen McDaniels or Alec Burks and Glenn Robinson or Boban and Tobias Harris, and you send out Matisse, Tony Bradley, Wilson Chandler, Landry Shamet. Did it make a difference? Would any of it make a difference? Could it have made a difference? Probably not. And then he gets to, it's just about Embiid being healthy and stuff. I think that there were some self-inflicted wounds that didn't need to happen here. We can talk about Star Hunter can continue for this offseason because they will be hunting.
Well, the Chris
Buddy
Haynes
is a guy that they will at least consider re-signing. Melton is a guy that they will consider re-signing. Batum, Tobias at a way lower number. Covington, if he's healthy, and maybe he's not.
Speaking of Tobias,
guys. Yeah,
MOC
still here.
MOC mentioned it at the end of his. So Michael kind of wrote an article for us of 4 questions from the trade deadline. The last question was, is Tobias Harris still here? The answer is yes.
There was never a chance that he wasn't going to be.
Tobias Harris played out his whole max contract with the Sixers.
All of it. Every minute of it.
It's
every ounce.
Unbelievable.
And they need him. They're depending on him now, maybe more than ever.
Oh, my God. So let me ask you this, though. So Sixers are 30-20.
They've lost 6 out of 7. Is that it?
6 out of 7 or 7 out of 8. Maybe 7 out of 8. They've looked particularly terrible the last couple of games.
Yeah.
So they're 30-20. They have 32 games left. Let's say Joel, even if he comes back in 6 weeks, that only leaves like 6 games left for him. So what do you think? Like, what can we let's say Joel Embiid didn't play any of those games, 32. What do we expect from the Sixers in those 14-18? Is that in?
Yeah, I mean, they gotta. They're 3 games up on the Heat for the 7th seed. Sixers currently 5th. They got to stay out of the play-in. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't roll the dice on it. So if you can get to the 6th seed, and then you get like Cleveland or Milwaukee in the first round, then that's
Cleveland's fine. Milwaukee's fine. I can't.
That's a
deal with the
winnable
Knicks in the first.
matchup. You know, you just got to. It's just all about Embiid's health and stuff. So you got to tread water at least enough to stay above that Heat Magic 7-8 right now. And that's why I wanted more guys. I think DeRozan really started making a lot more sense, but Chicago did not make those trades.
No,
they didn't. And then DeJounte Murray wasn't traded, and Bogdan wasn't traded, and Lauri Markkanen wasn't traded, and Mikal Bridges certainly wasn't traded, and none of those Nets guys, none of those forward Nets guys were traded.
Actually,
like
Miles Bridges said he wasn't going to get traded, right?
Yeah.
Oh, because he had.
It's just. It was a weird deadline, and I don't think that we did a particularly good job. But I do think that you could make the argument that they got the best player in Buddy Hield, and I think he's very much going to help this team a lot on the offensive end. And when those defensive-minded wings come back, then he'll be supported a little bit more on that end. But it's gonna come down to Joel. He was right. There was no like silver bullet saving the day at the deadline. So all we can do is hope that they gel together. Hope that Maxian, keeps taking a step up as a leader and as a ball handler, and they can, catch a little bit of fire from deep maybe in the next month, so that they
win
can
a fucking game.
Just win a game, yeah, something, please.
Yeah.
But they got a tough schedule coming up, so that's tough too. You start to think about now they have 5 picks this offseason.
4 until the draft, and then 5 after the draft.
Yeah, but they could hold the paperwork and shit. And so basically they could make a trade on draft night and it could not go through for a week. And you start to look at who that could be, Well, obviously Paul George is the name that is...
Chris Haynes mentioned today.
I've been bringing it up forever. It just makes so much sense for it to be Paul George. I don't know what the percentage chance it is of it being Paul George, but every day that Paul George does not re-sign with the Clippers is a good day.
I would love to have Paul George.
They gave Kawhi a bunch of money, but not all the money that he could give him. They're going to give Harden a bunch of money. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made this trade for him. There's a chance that Paul George is the guy that's on the outs there. I don't know what the percentage chance is. But like, if he wants out, the Sixers are a good place for him to be. So every day that Paul George is not signing that extension, you can consider that to be a good day. Other than that, you look at maybe Indiana doesn't re-sign Siakam. I think they probably do. Maybe the Knicks don't re-sign OG. I think they probably do. Maybe DeMar happens this summer. He's going to be a free agent, unrestricted. Maybe the Celtics don't have enough money to sign Drew. And then Drew Holiday comes home to finally win the process title that he was traded to kickstart. I like that narratively. So that's interesting. And then you can also look at like random shit, like, or they want to sign Drew and they want to trade Jaylen Brown, and then Jaylen Brown comes here, or Zion, or LeBron, or Kevin Durant.
You're just Zion and Jaylen Brown and wait, who is the other one?
LeBron James.
Oh yeah, you're making me sick here.
Or Kevin Durant, and it goes bad in Phoenix, and he starts to look around, which he always does. Or Anthony Davis, probably not Anthony Davis, but you just start thinking big picture. You start thinking big. The Sixers have a huge hole in between Maxey and Joel. They're going to re-sign Maxey to all the money they can possibly give him, and they have 5 first-round picks to trade. And I think somebody's going to want to come, or at least that's the bet Darryl is making. Is that somebody good enough that the relative punting they've been doing makes it worthwhile? That's the bet he's making. We'll see. But none of the guys that were potentially available this trade deadline, I felt were enough to trade all the picks that they could.
No.
And those guys didn't end up getting traded anyway.
Yeah.
And so we'll see. And so it's more waiting. It's more star hunting. I would love for it to be Paul George. Could you imagine? Say you re-sign Melton and you re-sign, let's say you re-sign Buddy Hield and Nick Batum you can't afford, and Covington you can't afford, and Tobias you can't afford. Let's say you sign Batum. I'm not letting Batum go. Maxey, Melton, Paul George, Batum, Embiid, with Buddy Hield and B-ball Paul.
Poor Batum, you're not letting him retire. He just wants to retire and go back to California.
I'm not letting him retire. You have to get past me first, bud. And then Ricky Council and Terquavion Smith and Kenny Lofton Jr. All that stuff. They have a lot of bench to fill out next offseason. And there's a chance that Marcus Morris just like re-signs on a buyout here, which would be funny.
Well, you can't re-sign a guy that you traded.
You can, because he was then traded again.
Oh, so he wasn't released from the team that he got traded to.
Yeah. So that could happen. Who knows? But the offseason will be interesting. This regular season will be pretty painful as we keep losing games. But I'm excited to watch Buddy Hield. I'm excited to see how him and Maxey look together. After being like the happiest guy in the world at Oklahoma, he does seem like he's been pretty miserable as a pro, Buddy Hield, in Sacramento and Indiana.
Yeah.
But it would be cool if he was here. It'd be cool if he shot like 50% from three for the rest of the year. What a turn that would be.
To become a better shooter?
All of a sudden. That would rule. And then you just gotta wait for the big guy to get healthy. And I feel confident that he's gonna play again sometime in late March, probably.
I would like to end the pod. We got an email from Mia, who is I would like to end the pod. I like that as a friend. I'd like to end the pod. I'd like to end it. It's over. Mia wrote us a poem called Trust the Process, parentheses, Joel Embiid recovers. It would be like thumbing a wound, so I do it. The great thing about pain is proof of life. Any calculation might pay off. I had too much pride, which was love I couldn't give up. No one told me to sit down. They told me I had a choice, to wait and see or to go for it. I've been here before. Repair could be, in fact, unending.
There you go.
Thank you, Mia.
Basketball podcast. That's what it's like.
Well, a lot of people did mention after today and the Embiid injury that, look, the worst that happens is we have another lottery party.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that people are saying like trade Embiid, start over, it's just like that. Unrealistic.
Trade Embiid.
He's too good.
Yeah.
And the like
trade him for?
Series of events that you kickstart is so much less guaranteed to end you up with a guy that is even in the same zip code as Joel as a basketball player.
Yeah.
You just gotta keep driving forward with him and see if he can get healthy at the right time.
Yeah.
That's all you can do. He's too good.
Gives you
He's
a better
too good
chance
to trade
than anybody you would trade him for.
Absolutely. Look at any other team. Absolutely. He's just too good. And he's going to play again this season. And you got to hope that it works out one of these days. And I for him and for us, I hope it does.
We'll talk to you Sunday. Is that when we have pod? Sunday? I believe it's Sunday. We'll talk to you then. We have the much needed All-Star
Super Bowl
break
Sunday. Big
coming.
game Sunday, we'll talk to you.
Yeah, big game. Oh, maybe we'll give you another pick, see if your pick is updated. Get some more props for you. We'll talk to you then. Are you done with TTP?
Yeah. You know, Lickface.